Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we review the highly anticipated Fear Clinic. Today we tackle fear itself.
Written and directed by Robert Hall, this movie stars Robert Englund, Fiona Dourif, and Thomas Dekker. Fear Clinic is about a doctor, played by Robert Englund, who has been studying phobias and has come up with this chamber to help people cure themselves of their phobias. But little do they know that fear itself is waiting inside. So what do we like about this movie?
I like that this was a different style of horror. It had many different roles replaying a similar experience. It was kind of its own weird subgenre. While watching the behind the scenes, we actually saw that this was a web series. And I wondered why I had heard about it for years, and it's probably because I heard about the web series for years and just never saw it.
Yeah, like at the beginning of the movie, they gave kind of a montage of how the doctor gained his fame. Watching the web series, I kind of realized, like, oh, like it wasn't just like he always was this famous. They actually kind of gave the origin story of how he made the chamber and stuff like that.
I found the overall cinematography in this film was amazing. The different use of dolly shots was so well done. It gave that feeling like you could be fear itself creeping in on the bystanders.
I really enjoyed the costume design and makeup that was in this film. They really got what fear looked like and how you could embody it. Because the amount of makeup they used and the way they made it really grungy really added to the suspense and the overall fear. And it probably helped that Robert Hall has had a lot of experience with makeup, that he was able to like oversee and make sure that it kind of fit with the overall film.
And it was neat that it kind of looked like symbiote matter. Straight out of Venom and a Carnage, like, it had that weird, grotesque look, like fucking veins and vines and fucking goop is coming at you. Fear in its goopiest form.
Yeah. And they even like include it with part of the story, like so people can see it. In some horror films, you'll see like blood running down the walls or just like ooze, and it's all like supposed to be kind of in their imagination. But in here, it was like they like touched it and just like it started hallucinating and started going crazy, which was awesome.
I gotta give props to the entire cast in this film because the acting was stellar. Robert Englund as the doctor was a perfect role for him. His voice in this film was so key.
Concentrate on the sound of my voice.
I have to give props to Fiona Dourif. She did a fantastic job. Both her and Thomas Dekker were awesome. Their chemistry together was great, especially when they had a little moment in the room. Everything was bulletproof as far as acting was concerned.
Let's move on to what we didn't like about this movie.
I didn't like the amount of Dutch angles that they used. There were too many of them. And I feel they use the strobe effect way too often. This amount of strobing probably wouldn't cause a seizure, but it does irritate people. And I was pretty irritated about halfway through when they really started to strobe. I mean, it's very, very evident that everything is strobing for most of the movie.
For how good the lighting was in this movie, I thought it had its downfalls. The windows always had this spinning purple light, and I didn't quite get what it was supposed to be for. At first, when they were doing it, I thought it was just to simulate rain, but then it kept going throughout the movie, and it kind of threw me off. Another thing I thought was strange was the amount of lens flares. About halfway through the movie, they just started coming in. It's like they just turned on that filter. It was just going crazy.
Because the film relied heavily on jumping back and forth between reality and hallucination, there was a few points around the middle arc where I felt confused as to what was going on, and I think they threw too much information at us all at once that we couldn't pull out what was important and take away what was just filler.
Well, this might be kind of a spoiler, though it does happen about halfway through the movie. Fear itself becomes some kind of physical entity. At this point, you don't know if you're in reality or you don't know if you're in the hallucinations. This might come back to some of the lighting. You don't know where you are in the movie. They jump back and forth probably 5 or 6 times within a 30-second to a minute window at some points. And you're not sure what's really going on. And maybe that is them trying to fuck with our psyche a little bit. Well, it's very meta. I get that. That's cool. But I think it needed to be slowed down to be a little bit more understandable.
Now it's time for our final thoughts and ratings.
I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it looked great. The acting was great. The story was great. Everything about it was great. The only thing that I didn't like were a few confusing parts with the story, but it kept me engaged. So that being said, I'm going to give this 4 laid to rest tributes out of 5.
Sexy bitches are my favorite kind of bitches.
Fear Clinic had a really cool concept. It was shot well, the acting was phenomenal, and the story was really, really unique, and I really enjoyed it. The problems that I found were a little nitpicky, but it came down to some of the editing and the choices when it came to the strobe effects and the separation from reality to the hallucinations. I was a little distracted and I didn't quite understand where I was at all times. But all in all, it was a pretty solid flick. So I'm gonna give this 3.5 lights out of 5.
I thought Fear Clinic was a great film. I thought they nailed the story overall. I thought the cinematography was great. I thought the makeup was great. I thought they really understood what fear was and embodied it perfectly. With these kind of more psychological or paranormal films, usually they kind of fall apart at the end, where you understand what's going on and you're just kind of going through the motions. But I thought they kept it going strong throughout the film, and it never once fell apart in my mind. So with all that said, I'm about to give this movie 4 steampunk Hannibal Robert Englunds out of 5.
As always, thanks for watching. Like this video and comment below with your favorite Robert Englund film. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already to stay updated with everything we're doing here on Bloodbath and Beyond. And make sure you watch the What Would You Do? I know it's a ton of shit for you to do. I'm sorry.